Working Until I Ran Out of Energy. They're the complete side 2 of the record. Screaming in kind of disappointment. This is amazing. Let's not mess this one up. Hey, I'm Dave Wilson, and this is the SOUNZ Composer Corner. I'm trying to figure out how musicians can improvise together around a composition in a way that captures some of the relationships that we have a hard time describing to each other. Ooh, I would describe myself to an alien as a person who has a lot of different facets and a lot of different kind of modes of operating, but also a person who really sees themselves as interconnected with all the different types of entities on this world, not just humans. Days in my life look really differently depending on what I'm doing. But my ideal work mode is something like this. I'll wake up and my kind of golden hours are maybe from like 7:30 until 11. And I love to get up, eat something, start working right away, get lost in the work, take a few breaks along the way. And then I'm kind of spent and out of energy and out of kind of mind power. Then I'll maybe do a workout, go to the gym, take a walk, have lunch, and then go back to work, either on things I need to do day to day, or if I'm on a deadline, go back to the project, and I like to work maybe 3 to 8. I discovered this pattern of work when I was a postgrad student back in the US. I went to UCLA and did a PhD there. And I was on a really strict deadline where I had to write most of this thesis in several months. And so I had to do 2 writing sessions per day. It was a very difficult kind of academic writing. And I found myself going to a cafe every morning, not the same one, and working until I ran out of energy. And then I actually couldn't work more. So I just ended up going for runs, eating, taking a nap, and then going to a different location and working until I ran out of energy again, which tended to be 8 o'clock. And I did that for a few months, and I finished the PhD thesis and realized like I could do that and maintain my well-being. Doing an exercise in the middle of the day really helped me keep my physical well-being going. I wasn't drinking. Usually I would also maybe socialize in the evening, maybe try to have dinner with someone or do a phone call or something, so I had some human interaction. So I discovered that that kind of rhythm really just works for me. So taking care of my well-being in different areas has, I would say, been a process. It's been a gradual process, seeing the different areas of well-being as interconnected. And part of the way that I've seen that more clearly over the years is through my teaching and seeing how with my students, as they come up, originally young millennials, but now Gen Z, they're really focused on, they're really kind of zoned in on how well-being affects them in their work. I've really learned from them and applied that to myself. So I recognize like if I don't get sleep, if I haven't worked out in a while, it affects my mood, and I feel like I need to stretch, and then it's like, oh, then I'm a little tired in the morning and I actually can't work at 8 a.m., which I know is the best time for me to work and do really good work. And I'm someone who loves working, so I want to be at my best when I do it. So part of that is related to the self, but I think part of it is also related to relationships with other people and being in a community. And it's been really cool for me to be in a community here in Wellington where a lot of musicians are making really wise choices about their well-being and looking after themselves, looking after other people. Ephemeral is a project I've been working on the last few years of original compositions that are improvisation based, where I'm playing tenor saxophone on about half of the compositions and bass clarinet on the other half, in a group that includes guitar, trumpet, bass, drums, and a string quartet. One of the things that I wanted to do was bring together a group of musicians with all different musical backgrounds and all different ways of listening, because the music is really based on listening to one another, drawing on memories of our listening in other environments, and bringing those together to each musical moment as the project unfolds. So this project is a very personal project. Each of the compositions is based on some sort of relationship or some sort of sensation that I'm trying to communicate musically in a different environment. So for example, one of the compositions is based on a tune that my niece improvised when she was 2 years old, as most 2-year-olds do. And we were together hanging out with her and her parents, my sister and her husband. And so I asked her parents, I'm like, oh, that's kind of an interesting tune. Like, could I turn that into a composition? They said yes. And of course, since then, she has totally forgotten the piece. Like, who remembers what they sang when they were 2 years old? But it was a way of kind of capturing that moment. And the piece really turned into this kind of way of thinking about childhood and how it has all these fleeting moments, how as a parent, when your child is 2 years old, it's a really intense time probably. And when you're a child, being 2 years old and being young is actually like a little bit stressful and a little bit complex as you're learning how to be a human and how everything feels. So that's an example of how these pieces are trying to kind of encapsulate feelings and moments that disappear, that are ephemeral, and kind of bring them into new spaces and give them new life and new meaning in each performance and in each recording. The second single that came out was For Olivia, and that's actually part one of 2 compositions, the second being titled Liv's Theme. So that was the original composition based on this kind of ostinato that she improvised when she was 2 years old. And later on, I decided to add kind of an extended meditative improvisation to the beginning of that as an introduction. And so what we've done on the vinyl record, those are 2 contiguous tracks that are like 19 minutes long. They're the complete side 2 of the record, which is just a really special experience. And so after we recorded it, I decided to have it as these 2 continuous tracks, but the first one didn't have a title. Liv's Theme already had a title. And so I was hanging out with my niece, who's no longer 2 years old, she's older, and talking to her about it. And so we had a discussion about what the title should be. And so we agreed together that it should be called For Olivia. She also approved the album artwork for the single with her name on it as well. All music projects take a lot of different people with a lot of different skill sets that a lot of times aren't visible in the listening process, for example, and they're not meant to be visible. But in this project, I really drew on communities that I've been part of in a lot of different phases of my life, but especially here in Te Whanganui Aotearoa here in Wellington, working with musicians from the community more oriented towards jazz, the community at the university where I work, the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. Many of the people in this project they all kind of knew each other, but they got to know each other better in the course of the project, which really kind of infused the fabric of the music with the sense of what those relationships are about. And that was really crucial in every performance of the project, but also in the recording process. The other thing about the music industry being really centered on community and dependent on human relationships is that by the nature of the way it works, it opens the door for the possibility of a lot of harm. And so that's been a huge part of my work as well, working on strategies to create environments that are safe for musical work, where harm can be minimized, where people can be supportive of one another across many different identities with regard to gender and sexuality, age, ethnicity, race, whatever it may be, because that actually is in the music when people play together. That feeling of safety or risk, trust or not trust. And so, my vision for all music communities is that they're a place where everyone can belong and feel safe to do their thing and contribute their thing and be celebrated. And we've got a long way to go. To make a collaboration space safe and successful, I think clear communication is really key. Clear expectations about desires for the work, as well as, even with someone new that you're working with, some sense of a growing sense of trust between the individuals. And I think people can demonstrate themselves as trustworthy in many different ways. Sometimes you meet someone, you trust them immediately, and you're right. Sometimes you meet someone and maybe you're not sure, so it takes a little bit longer to trust them. So I think, finding people who exhibit these kind of qualities or share a wavelength with me, for me, is a way of providing that space. The other thing I think about is when I'm in a group of people and I'm in a position where I'm leading a project, I feel really responsible for the space and how it's conditioned. So I set that tone with the way that language that I use and the way that I act. One of the great moments of this recording was we were recording this composition of mine called Lift, which I composed it as almost completely improvised. It has a harmonic structure, but I never wrote any real melodies other than some bass lines. I'm playing on the bass clarinet with the bass, and the melodic instruments are improvising melodies, but it's really meant to be a drums feature. So the drums are really in focus. They're kind of driving through several different tempos and grooves. And Hikurangi Shevren-Ka is playing drums, just masterful playing on the whole album. And we were doing a take, and Hick, in the middle of the take, you hear him kind of just yelling and screaming in kind of disappointment or frustration. So we stopped, and he's like, "We're gonna have to take a break, guys." And we're like, "Oh man, are you okay? What happened?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay, but I broke my kick drum pedal." And he came out and the strap was torn in two because he had played it so hard. I think I posted a picture of this, but it was we found another bass drum pedal and we carried on, but it was just that is a great sign about the energy going into the music. And if you listen back to kind of in the middle of that track, you hear him just introducing these highly creative and really kind of multicolored sounds in every groove that he's kind of constructing. And the ones that we kept in the recording were ones where, as he's playing, we're all just kind of looking at each other in the studio in amazement, like, this is amazing. Let's not mess this one up because it's going really well. So I brought food for everyone throughout the recording session, and in the mornings, I wanted to go to my favorite spot, Gramercy Bakery, to get pastries. And probably the best thing that I've had there, or maybe anywhere in Wellington, is their Tamarillo Danish, and they only have it when tamarillos are in season. And I went there the morning of the first recording. They had 3 Tamarillo Danishes left. The person in front of me took 2 of them, and there was 1 left. And I ordered it amongst the other things. And so I asked the people, the line was down the block. I asked the people, was this the last one of the day? This was in October. And they're like, yeah, this is the last one of the day. And I was like, sweet. And I was like, wait, is this the last one of the whole season, of the whole year? They're like, yeah, we won't have any more until next year. And I made an announcement to the cafe. I was like, I just want everyone to know this is one of the best foods you can get in Wellington. I'm about to record an album, and this Tamarillo Danish is just going to bless our experience. And people started jokingly offering me money for it. Anyway, we ate that at the beginning of the recording. Open your ears, listen, and make space for as many people that are different from you as possible. The album release show is happening on December 2nd, Saturday, at the Newtown Community Center. They just redid their theater. It's really beautiful. There's going to be live visuals responding to the sound, which I'm really excited about. And there's 2 performances, one at 5 o'clock and one at 8 o'clock. And before each one, there's going to be kind of a hang with drinks with the record label, Thelonious Records, and some of their other artists about 45 minutes before each show. So again, really trying to bring the community together, as many musicians, music lovers as possible here in Wellington to the Newtown Community Center on December 2nd. Tickets for the album release are available on Event Finder. So you can buy tickets there in advance. Students, $10 in advance. And then you can also buy at the door. You can find the album on Bandcamp. You can pre-order the double vinyl that we made for this project there. My Bandcamp is Dave Wilson Sounds. At Bandcamp, you can find that. Ephemeral is the name of the album. My Instagram is Dave R. Wilson. My Facebook is also Dave R. Wilson. I'm posting a lot of information about the album there on Instagram and Facebook, and also kind of a little bit about how the music is put together and some stories kind of behind some of the tracks as well. If you want to learn more about all of my work, my recordings, my writing, my scholarship, my other public work, my website is davewilsonmusic.com.